Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live at 12:30 on a Wednesday, February 24th. Today happens to be my birthday, and my head has been spinning all morning trying to get done with all these responsibilities, but I am not going to miss a stream. It's not going to happen. We got too much to talk about. A lot is riding on the line, and clearly almost everyone that listens to me is probably allocating value in some way, shape, or form. And it relates to these topics that I discuss. I talk about everything from a macroeconomic perspective because your value allocation process is basically driven and governed by these macroeconomic forces and choices that sovereign countries make at the government level, that private corporations make at basically, which is a pseudo government level, the size and scale of these corporations, and they impact the way markets function, the way money works, the technology that's available for potential upgrades to a country's monetary network, which is really the topic of today's stream. We'll obviously talk about technicals. We'll look over the macro assets, and obviously I'll answer questions because that is the way we do things here. Monetary networks, forced government action. Are we on the precipice of the government being forced to take decisive action? We shall see. But we see some tells, and that's the whole point. Today's episode is sponsored by Change Angel, the non-custodial swap exchange for social goods. Stop depositing on exchanges, not your keys, not your crypto, non-custodial DeFi, or nothing at all. Bam, let's pop it over to the main screen and see who's in the stream. Rona's in the house. Whoop, whoop. Wave still steadily binging on my videos. Thanks for getting me to think a lot more about risk off positions in the crypto space. Yes, I'm thankful that more persons are taking an interest in risk mitigation. Um, sure, we can take bets, we can be risk on, but you want to take small bets. If you think something's going to asymmetrically appreciate, you want it to be a small bet because your goal isn't to make as much money as possible. Your goal is to manage risk, and your goal is to protect the downside. The vast majority of a portfolio should be risk off, and after significant technical analysis and no doubt fundamental analysis, you take risk on bets. Small bets, because if you can turn $1,000 into $15,000 and you're able to find that rhythm and that pattern, that's how you change everything. Because if you could get 50, 60, 70%, which is a reasonable percentage nowadays in the crypto space, that's a heck of a yearly income that starts to accumulate, accumulate, accumulate. So you don't take oversized risk, you don't take on too much risk. Risk mitigation, risk management, you protect what you earned for yourself to the best of your abilities. Anyway, that's a digression from today's topic, but hit me with questions. I'm more than happy always to talk about risk, always to talk about the awesome risk off positions that are available in the crypto space, which has been the topic of many streams of late. Ronan, happy birthday. Thank you very much. Bit is in the house with the birthday wishes. Yes. Brendan, happy birthday. I'm. Oh, okay. Well, it's all relative. I'm starting to feel old with how much. I have no time anymore. Need a career change. But yes, thank you very much for the kind words. Cal's in the house. Always a pleasure. Thank you. Wave in the house. The party emoji, plural of emoji. Stelios in the house. Matt, morning. Happy birthday. Thank you. Squanchy's in the house, who's been killing it lately with some really good social media talk about risk off positioning. All right. So I rushed to the stream. Uh, Phone call after phone call. Let me see if I could find a couple of things I was thinking about. Yeah, so it's all about China really at this point. Now, the smaller countries in Europe are taking action. Switzerland probably is out in the lead with regard to being innovative with their monetary policy, digital currency implementation and whatnot. But China is the girl in the room, and they are far in the lead. They're the furthest in the lead, probably. Clearly, it's anecdotal because we're talking about countries here, government clandestine operations. We don't necessarily know how far they are, but shit, they got the BSN. I mean, all you have to do is literally go to add BSN, and you can see the website was a bsn.io or something. This is a full-on operation, and this is full-on like China, like the government. It's like the United States having the Department of Blockchain Technology, and they're literally pulling together all the public blockchains, Ethereum, Cosmos, Polkadot, Algorand, probably Cardano, because that's a lot of potential there for a government currency network. And they're building bridges and they're packaging it in such a way that these chains are going to be interoperable. And with IRETA, they're producing business solutions, business tools, and technologies. So literally, China is very, very, very far in the lead. Whether persons in government know it or not, they really should be told it at this point. And if they're not, if they're assessing their situation with regard to their readiness to remain competitive, they probably should be fearful at this point, considering China's been doing this for a while. And they are targeting the public blockchains along with private permission systems. So they're merging everything. They're really pulling together public permissionless systems and private permissioned systems. So whatever they're doing, they got some big goals in mind. And what's important to understand is the second you get a digital currency at the national level, and combined with the fact that they're totalitarian in many regards, they're literally just going to bypass the banking system and say whatever. They have a capacity with the digital money to give Android and iOS apps and deploy unlimited central bank credit anywhere in the world. So that's sure should light a fire under other countries' butts. Because before you know it, John in Albuquerque is going to be able to take a $5 million loan denominated in digital yuan, and because there's absolutely no supply restriction at the central bank level, they could craft novel monetary policy, which is exactly what we're doing in the DeFi space, which is exactly what the AMMs are doing in the DAOs, and they could really do some next level shit because what we're currently doing, it's not paper, it's all digital, obviously, at the Fed. But what they're doing and having to operate within traditional banking rails and the way they handle inflation and deflation, it's responsive. They are reactive. They literally don't directly attack inflation and deflation. They literally interact with it, obviously, with QE and reserves and however they manifest what they call dollars into the system. But the reactive management of it is vis-a-vis central bank interest rates, exchange rates, intra-bank exchange rates. So um, what we're doing in DeFi is instead of reactive, it's proactive. You could literally iterate on monetary policy in real time if you wanted to, and that's exactly what 1inch does. 1inch, there's the entire governance panel. You, the general public has a capacity to modify the 1inch dot exchange monetary policy by means of decentralized voting. How about that? So I don't know what the heck they're doing at the Federal Reserve, but considering the proactive and advanced pace of development and iteration that's going on with the BSN and the Chinese monetary system, they better step up their game if the United States wants to remain competitive as a currency. I'm not even talking about a reserve currency, because what happens if China crafts a monetary policy that is extraordinarily novel and innovative, and dare I say, mimicking and learned from what has been created in the DeFi space. The U.S. monetary policy is antiquated and will be effectively deprecated. So yeah, these boys better respond like ASAP. Anyway, so I got a couple of comments on the stream. Let's get off that somber note for a second, because there's some serious stuff going on. Like literally, you guys stare at Twitter and you're looking at the price of Bitcoin, the price of Ethereum. We're talking about this DeFi stuff. But what's really going on is a monetary policy cold war. And it's basically China and the United States in a fight for money supremacy. And if that's not the way the U.S. government's looking at it, they're going to have a big problem. Um, because they sure as hell like their global reserve status. And if they don't do anything about it, yeah. Stelio says Bancor though looks sick. Can't wait for $15. Bancor is a ridiculously innovative monetary policy. It is obviously an AMM. They're going to have cross-chain interop solutions in time, but their monetary policy is not like the other AMMs. And permanent loss protection allows you to basically have single-sided exposure, which means you are full risk on. If the asset goes up, the value of your position goes up. If it goes down, the value of your position goes down, all while capitalizing on transaction fees as well as incentivized yield. It's a critical component of a portfolio. Bear in mind, Bancor's positions, single-sided positions, are risk on. You're fully exposed to the upside and the downside of the asset's price action, which is why I like to dispel the myth about double-sided pools, particularly when a asymmetrically volatile asset is paired with a dollar stablecoin, because that effectively neuters volatility. It mutes it significantly. So you're not going to have big spikes up, big spikes down in your dollar denominated value. So the way a permanent loss works, if you have an Ethereum, let's say Ethereum DAI pool, Ethereum USDC or whatever, if the price of Ethereum goes significantly up, you're going to have significantly less Ethereum in the pool. People are buying Ethereum. People are buying Ethereum. Yes, because that means they're buying Ethereum, which is driving the price up, which means the pool is going to be more dollars and less Ethereum. But if you're going to apply a strategic and intelligent portfolio management strategy, that's what you want. You don't want the volatility. What you're doing is exchanging the volatility for predictable recurring revenue streams. So the double-sided pool is a great way not just to preserve your value when you're focusing on the dollar denomination aspect of it, but also to capitalize significantly on the volatility of these assets, which are further, the opportunity is further enhanced by the monetary policies that these AMMs have created, which are overwhelmingly sustainable at this point, empirically proven by the fact that one, they're appreciating, two, the inflation is decaying inflationary, which is exactly what Bitcoin does. And the deflationary component, a lot of them have burn components. So it's not like the circulating supply is going to grow out of hand. Kyber network literally is not even decaying inflationary. Kyber's actually deflationary and also contains deflationary pressures vis-a-vis incentivized supply disruption participating in the DAO. So this is some crazy stuff, and that's basically 1 and 2. You got risk on with Bancor, a critical component of a portfolio, and you got pretty much risk off, which is a crypto asset paired with a dollar stablecoin, which is going to you have to retrain yourself to think about it as the dollar denominated value of the pool that counts, and the yield and the interest, and that's what you want. So an Ethereum DAI pool is really cool. Just saying, because Ethereum is a heavily traded asset. It's the macro asset of the crypto space. It's basically the fuel for the crypto space. So the buy pressure on Ethereum is immense because people need gas to operate in the DeFi space. So there's a constant churn and a constant transactions of the asset. It's like 10%. You get 10% on Ethereum USDC on 1 inch, and Ethereum 1 inch tokens. I think you're getting like 20%. Top it off, you're getting 100% in incentivized yield. So just saying. Carlos says, how should we calculate when we get to a pool when fees can be around $200? So Ethereum currently prices out relatively small positions. You have to account for the gas fees. Clearly, if you made $1,000 in yield, yeah, you're going to lose a good part of that yield to gas fees. So clearly, if you're going to make $200 a month in yield, unfortunately, pooling may not be a great direction to take. So you have to look for risk mitigation strategies in other ways. 211 Gwei is pretty damn high. Bancor is going to be immensely expensive. You're talking about probably $600, $700, $800 for a transaction. Uniswap is probably your best bet. probably looking at like $30 for the token approval, and probably maybe 50, 60, $70 for adding to the pool. I'm just guessing at this point, but Uniswap is has probably the least complicated contracts and is likely the least expensive. So that is hard, and I understand and I appreciate that. So that's why there's been such a drive to Avalanche and Binance Smart Chain. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to have a lot of networks, monetary networks, which have monetary policy, which have monetary velocity, which have transactions, borrowing, and lending, and they're all going to be interoperable with one another. And basically, Andre Cronje from Yearn Finance, and no doubt Bantech, because that boy is next level brains. These boys are going to put some serious contracts together, Ethereum smart contracts. They're going to wrap all of this up into a consolidated DApp. That's what those boys are doing, and that's the inevitable destination of the DeFi space. That's exciting because I'd love to do interact with the DApp, do a transaction, and have it involve the Polkadot, the Cosmos, as well as the Ethereum network. Because really, Ethereum is where you want your assets. Ethereum is, for lack of a better analogy, is the Fifth Avenue of the crypto space at this point, given the price, quantity of the price of gas required to interact with it. But the other networks are going to all be ancillary. They're all going to be synergistic and supportive and interoperable. Bam. Johnny Turbo, Bancor single-sided, open for Rook, only 3K left. Yeah, so that, it's bear in mind, I love the single-sided pools. It's a great way to have full-on um, exposure, full exposure to the appreciation and the depreciation of the asset. So that's the same as being risk on. There is no risk mitigation. So folks look at impermanent loss and think like they're saving losses, but risk on is truly something to be considerate of. For instance, the vast majority of my portfolio is not risk on. I avoid the crap out of risk on. I have no interest in my value going down. I would trade Ethereum going to $100,000 in Ethereum in a heartbeat for reduced volatility and 75% interest. Who wouldn't 75% interest? So that means you got to take probably a fair amount of risk to accumulate enough value such that these yield bearing positions are lucrative. And you don't necessarily have to take excess risk because you can work. You could trade time for money and you accumulate assets that you just put into these yield bearing positions. And over time, the amount of yield that they produce is increasing. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the way banking used to work. When you were getting 15% a year on your bank account, people worked and they saved money. They put their money in their savings account. They accumulated it. People were getting interest, and they had a recurring revenue stream. So what's available in the DeFi space makes the best years of fiat banking seem pathetic. You never got 50, 60, 70, 80, triple digit percent yield in the legacy banking system. And what's so unbelievable by the vast majority is that some of these incentivized rates are sustainable. Now, the second you go over to Binance Smart Chain, you're seeing 5, 10, 15, 20,000% yield. It's not. And the analogy is to the masternode scene back in 2017, 2018. And you can still find masternodes thrown around 1,000,000% or whatever. And what's that do? That's hyperinflation. It does exactly what you think it would do. It dilutes the value of the currency to basically nothing. Sell pressure always exceeds buy pressure. So the value of the asset just continuously goes down and down and down. So this is where creative and intelligent monetary policy comes into the picture. You can have inflation. You can have relatively high inflation. But what you need is balance with deflationary pressures, including a burn component, including incentivized supply disruption. And they act in a feedback loop, which counteract and balance the tendency or the effect of inflation on depreciation. Fascinating, because inflation affects supply and demand balance. There's more supply than demand. because there's more and more assets, and that's the way all of this shit works. You guys are talking, trying to keep up. I'm starting to look at impermanent loss as means to dollar average. So impermanent loss, you put Ethereum and USDC in a pool. You have to stop thinking about the Ethereum. What you're by doing that, what you're interested in is the dollar value in the pool. That's the way to look at it. I'm starting to been hearing later to Arbitrum and Bancorp Possible would counter fees from gas. So yeah, that's the way the market's all heading. They'll all go for their L2 solutions, their other L1 solutions and their bridges and tokenization and that's tokenized representation, and that's where Ren comes in and Ren VM, so on and so forth. Can you do a video and show us how to make dollars? Chet's in the house. Listen, you want to make dollars. That's a general statement, my friend. Happy you're here. Um, what we do here is risk management, risk mitigation. We want to first and foremost preserve the current value that we have, and then step out of the comfort zone. So I wholeheartedly feel comfortable recommending financial advice. If you're a new entrant to the crypto space, you want to be in USDC, GUSD, or USDT. You want dollars. And then what you're going to do is you're going to throw your shit in Bancor, and we'll go over here, go over to the data page, and you're going to get USDC 82.95% and 16.69% yield, which is APR because it's not compounded. You would have to do manual compounding. But that's like 100%. It's almost 98, 99% interest. So that's probably the best bet for the first entrance into the crypto space. You go over to Curve Finance. If you purchase some CRV, you could easily get some serious yield. I mean, look at this, the BUSD pool. You could throw USDC into the BUSD pool, and you're going to, without any CRV locked as VECRV, you're going to get 19.2% incentivized yield plus 8.61% interest on your dollars. What are you getting in a bank account? You're getting 0.02% interest, or zeros, whatever they're giving you nowadays. The greatest risk, if you're going to compare the risk of smart contracts and these platforms, which have basically been de-risked, in my opinion, given that they've been implemented for over a year at this point, and in development probably long before that, and the fact that they contain $4.2 billion, is that there's risk. And here's the kicker. If you keep your money in dollars, it's beyond risk. It's not even maximum risk. There's an absolute 100% guarantee you will lose money. So that means you have to take action. So you have to take risk, because even risk is better than a guaranteed loss of value. How about that shit? How about them apples? What can you do? Chat, so man, ask questions, man. I'm here 5 days a week. I'm always happy to talk. Oh shit says, I'm just going to say your name 5 times a stream. My man. When they built this epic DeFi, what will the mean for wealth creation? Is this going to be some crazy APR? So, value creation is present in the DeFi space. There's value being created, particularly between lending and borrowing. And that's how basically value is created in the legacy financial system. And that's what they talk about when discussing monetary velocity. When you're lending and borrowing, that's basically the fundamental monetary sequence of events that triggers value creation. Chris says, any qualms with the Lexec Bancor whitelisting proposal? I know nothing of Lexec. Thank you, honey. Noah, how are you able to keep track with all these protocols? I have been watching what's been happening with Curve the last few weeks. The crypto bond market is truly mind-boggling. Yeah, it's incredible. But I've been doing this for, I got into DeFi back in March of last year. Before May, everything started ripping in May. Literally, you see this pool right here? This has 4.2 billion. I remember when this said 500,000. So I was one of the first participants in the WBTC pool when it had like less than $1 million. And I remember when they said it was like they hit $1 million daily volume, and it was like all over Twitter, and I was retweeting, and it was so exciting. And now they're doing $300+ million a day. So this is about a year ago at this point. What what this data means is empirical evidence that the systems function. The transaction capacity is works, and the general public is able to participate in this transaction process. Whereas with a bank, they do nothing for you. So this is banking, except you're actually putting your money to work. So these yields are actually sustainable, and that is what has been proven over the last year. This yield is sustainable. So this yield right here is 100% sustainable, particularly because it's derived from transaction fees on the platform. It's not even inflationary derived. This yield, 0.02% of all transactions, go to VE curve holders. So if you hold VE curve, you will get dollars on a weekly basis. So this is beyond sustainable. Just it's what you will get paid. Bear in mind it's a spot interest rate, so it will fluctuate depending on the daily volume over the course of a week for this platform. These yields, these incentivized yields, are an absolutely fascinating, legit monetary policy that was very well thought out. It's shared amongst many of the AMMs, at least the similar concept of an inflationary component coupled with a stabilizing deflationary pressure. The deflationary pressure sometimes comes in the form of a burn component, which Kyber has had and Bancor is likely implementing right now, if not already deployed. But they all have the locking component. So Curve locks CRV to create VECRV, which is a deflationary component disrupting circulating supply. They all do it in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, 1inch, you're able to lock 1inch and get 40% returns, and that's interest. Just the same way I said this is completely sustainable, the interest on 1inch is like 40%. And that comes from platform transaction fees. Now, if you're talking about the incentivized yield bearing pools, oh my God, you're talking about 120%. So, and those pools also further disrupt supply because if you add liquidity to a pool, it's reducing circulating supply. You're not making a sale, you're just facilitating the transaction process. Crazy. CRV is bet on the growth of money velocity and stablecoin. I'm considering taking profits into CRV. Stake for VECRV to receive a stake for the velocity of money. Boom. Curve is the Forex of the crypto space. I like to say all roads lead through Curve. Almost every transaction on 1inch probably goes through Curve in some regard, but Curve unto itself now has cross-asset transactions vis-a-vis synthetics, meaning the potential for this platform is enormous. So obviously, I have a very large portion of my portfolio is allocated towards Curve. I bought this dirt cheap. I did not buy this for 100 grand. I didn't buy it for this price. I bought it for a fraction of this price. Curve dropped to 20 cents. So 50,000 Curve costs like $10,000, and right now it's two and change. So $10,000 turns into 100 grand. Yay! But you can't take it out, and that's the beauty of Curve's monetary policy. You cannot withdraw your Curve from a VE curve position for 4 years. So this is significant incentivized supply disruption. And it's an incredible monetary policy. And that's what's emerging in this space. That's what China's wanting to capitalize on. And they're going to want to integrate it throughout their society, utilizing the technology, not just for the monetary property benefits and the value creation process, but also probably a way for the general public to get paid and consume new technologies and just generally evolve past anything that the legacy financial system is possible of providing. It's deprecated. This shit is crazy. It really is. Angela's in the house. Always a pleasure. Oh shit, you're very welcome. Happy birthday. Thank you very much. Amen, brother. Chad, it's a pleasure. We should talk more often. I'm more than happy to always talk. Dropping so much alpha. 8 now, blowing my mind. I mean, it just doesn't stop. It really doesn't. What is a great undervalued digital asset that provides good yields? Let me take a look real quick. Well, it's not my position really to advocate for particular assets, but I mean, 1inch has not depreciated significantly. It's still sitting at $3.92. But that thing was a buck 20 when it bottomed. It's at $3.66 at the moment. Curve is at $2.18. I think bottomed at 20 cents. It's now sitting at $2.18, as I said. Um, Bancor, man, that thing was like 20 cents at the beginning of the year, something like that. It's sitting at $5.85. So all this stuff just went through rapid inflation, rapid asymmetric appreciation. And I title Bancor 1 inch curve, I title these assets basically financial primitives because they're fundamental to an actual monetary policy. So they're pretty much a fiat of sorts. They're a currency, literally by definition, because they have monetary velocity. They create value because there's borrowing and lending facilitated by Aave and Cream Finance and other providers. So there's literally all the characteristics of an actual monetary system completely present, reproduced, and significantly superior to that of the legacy financial system. It's a whole nother level. And it's all open. You can do anything you want. There's no restrictions, there's no KYC, there's no nothing. And it's self custody. You could literally remember a 12-word seed phrase and your bank is in your head. So up for 24 over 12, but that's besides the point. Just saying. Oh, let's go back to the stream, see if there's any questions. I'm going to wrap this up about 1:04 p.m. Um, J Ram, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Please repost this live stream if possible. Love to review the parts I missed. So they're always available on YouTube. I have over 200 live streams on YouTube. Go for it. Have at it. I'll probably pop it on Twitter. This was a good one today. But they're always available. 1:04 p.m. on a Wednesday, February 24th. I thank you, everyone, for joining. 33 people in the stream, 18 likes. We can do better. I wish you all a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.